Hello there. During one of my videos, I promised I would demonstrate the procedure for extracting my in-ground trees, the ones that I buried in the ground in grow bags. I call it my ground bag technique. And there's videos on this subject where I explain that the reason why I do this is because I get the best of both worlds. When I take a potted plant and I cut holes in the fabric of the grow bag and I bury the whole thing just like at the same level that I would if the ground was growing, if the tree was growing in the ground entirely. I think I'm going to get a little cup of coffee here. I haven't had my share yet today. But anyway, there's a lot of advantages to doing this. And one of the most important advantages is, of course, portability. You can get the plant out in the fall of the ground and you can protect it. Now this is a tree that is a beautiful tree. Now this is a Smith, okay, that I've featured several times, that was very productive, produced a lot of figs for the last few years. And last year it was in a pot and I featured it. It was loaded. And this year, early in the spring, back probably in early May, I planted this in the ground and it produced a huge volume of very beautifully ripened figs, some of which were spoiled by the rains, the heavy rains from the remnant hurricane. And but that only lasted for a few days, and before that I was picking plenty of delicious, beautiful figs, spectacular and exquisite in taste, as of course you know that Smith is. And then I got some ruined figs, and then after that it dried back up and I was okay for a while there. And let's just put it this way, I had plenty of delicious figs from this tree, and I wouldn't want to sacrifice this to the winter cold and have it killed all the way back, because this tree is valuable. And I spent a lot of time and effort growing this tree to be as big and large as it is. And I want to preserve all this fruiting wood. And if you look closely, you will also see that there are breba on this wood. You can see right there. I don't know if it's in focus or not, but right here, you can see a few of them. There's two on the end. There's breba there. I'll move around to try and get a focal point. But these are going to produce large, delicious breba. Here's one right here. See that? In the spring, they're all over the place. I mean, it's loaded. It's loaded with breba already. Why would I want to leave this to the mercy of the winter and have it killed back all the way to the ground, okay? Or come up with some other procedure, cut it all the way down or something like that. Look, you want to preserve your trees. Now, sometimes you have to do drastic pruning. My last video talks about drastic pruning, and it talks about just regular pruning, when you would go in here and maybe just take a few branches out, to open it up to the sun a little bit. And you want the air, you want ventilation, and you want air to flow through it freely. That's always good for the figs and the quality of the figs. If you want exquisite tasting, delicious, top-notch figs, also you want the sun to be able to filter through, get through at different angles at different times of the day in order to ripen your fruit. And sun-ripened fruit is always better than anything that ripens in the shade under a leaf or something like that, or even in a greenhouse. You want to get your trees, and I've talked about this many times, if you have a greenhouse, you want to get them out in the sun, because sun-ripened fruit tastes better than greenhouse fruit, period. End of story. Trust me, that's a fact. And there's a reason why. Because of the enzymes that are produced in the fig itself that are created by the sun, and they don't exist when you remove the ultraviolet rays. And many of the sun panels on these greenhouses, they do not allow for a sufficient amount of ultraviolet rays to penetrate into the leaves, into the trees, and therefore provide the benefit to the fruit of those enzymes, which make for a better tasting, higher quality fruit. So there's a lot of reasons why I say some of the things that I say, okay, but I don't get a chance to explain them all in great detail, but I get around to it. And if you watch my videos, it's there. Everything that you might possibly want to know, I mean, most of it is there. But in this case, I'll get back to the fact that not only does it produce sun-ripened figs by being in the ground, but when it's in a pot and it's in the ground, it doesn't blow over every time a wind comes along or a storm. I don't have to water it as much. And the roots will travel through the holes that I cut in the grow bag. And the roots will travel into the surrounding ground and provide the tree and the figs with nutrients that you wouldn't ordinarily get, you know, in a unnatural pot. So you're going to get that advantage. You know, another advantage is too that you can get these early started. If you have a greenhouse, or if you just want to put them up against the sunny side of the house in the spring, you take the potted plant and you put it next to the house on the sunny side of your garage or shed or house, or in your greenhouse if you have one, and or even in the house if you have some windows that allow the sunlight to penetrate, and you give it an early start. When you give the tree in the pot an early start and then you plant it in the ground like this, okay, you're going to get an early crop of sun-ripened figs that have the benefit of all the nutrients that the roots were able to travel into and extract from the real soil, from real natural conditions. That's why we do it. That's why I do it, okay? And so you're preserving the breva by not chopping the tree all the bits. Once in a while you have to do a radical pruning, and you'll see that but that was mostly for in-ground trees. I don't like pruning a lot because I find that these fruiting branches, if you leave them alone, the longer you can leave them from year to year, if you can just leave them alone, they're going to produce an abundance of fruit and a higher quality of fruit. Look how thick they are. Look at them. Look how healthy they are. You don't want to be cutting back these fruiting branches if you don't have to. And this is mostly a main crop producing fig tree. But it also has breva. So why would you want to cut those away on last year's wood? You don't want to do it. You want to preserve it. I am not a big advocate for pruning trees, fig trees, especially in pots, okay? But in ground, sometimes you have to be a little bit more radical because they grow so vigorously. You got to open them up to the sun. You have to allow for the air flow through there. You need to get ventilation. And of course, as I said, you've got to control the size of the trees when they're in ground, when they get so large where they're growing over top of the house and the birds are helping themselves, and you have to get up on a ladder and maybe fall and hurt yourself, and it just doesn't work out. So you keep them under control. But in pots, not so much. You don't need to worry about that too much. But you do want to preserve as much wood as you can, especially these fruiting branches. You want to preserve them so that in the following year, you're going to have an abundance of excellent fruit, of excellent quality. And the only way you're going to get it is the way that I'm mentioning right now, by preserving last year's wood, okay? Preserving the tree. Now, if you're going to keep it in the ground, of course you wrap it, and I have videos on wrapping that you can look at. You can look them up. I have several, and I go into a lot of detail about wrapping figs, and I believe in wrapping. I believe in preserving the branches. I believe in having breva the following year, which means you have to preserve this year's wood for next year's production, especially on the San Pedro types. We've talked about that. I've got tapes about that. Now I want to finish demonstrating here how I extract these trees that I grow using my ground bag method. Let me get my shadow out of this. Okay. And let me show you this instrument that I use. This is a really interesting instrument. Okay. You wouldn't believe how I got this instrument, but I got it probably maybe 35 or 40 years ago, and I was driving behind a truck of immigrant workers, which I have a lot of respect for because they work hard for their living, and somebody dropped their machete out of the truck into the road. I saw it, I stopped, I picked it up, And I didn't know what it was at first, but it turned out to be this. And I've had this thing ever since. And it's a beautiful tool. And you can see the way it's shaped. It's kind of wide on the end and flat, and I've got it sharpened. And it's sharpened on both sides. And it's solid metal all the way to the end of the handle. Okay, so I can put this in the ground like that. Okay, and I can take a little hammer like this, and I can start banging this down. It's very easy. Now, why am I doing this? Okay, because you'll remember with my other videos on how I show the ground bag method, you will remember that I cut holes about 4 to 5 inches in a zigzag pattern all the way around the grow bag to let the roots come out and seek out nutrients and moisture. You don't have to water these trees in ground bags nearly as much. Nowhere, not even close as much as you would if you just had them above ground in the bag without using this method. Okay, so that's another advantage. You don't have to care for them as much. They're stable, they don't blow over in the wind, you don't have to give them as much water, you don't even have to give them as much fertilizer because the roots seek out fertilizer. Now I just cut those roots. Now I don't know exactly where the holes are, but they're all around the bag, so I just go right around the bag, okay, taking my time, sit in the sun, pick a nice day. It's so easy to do. It's relaxing. Drink a cup of coffee, and then go back and forth. Push it that way, and this way you rip those roots, and then just move along. And you just keep on going in that fashion, like this. Right on down, right through those roots. This way, that way, rip it, cut it. Okay. Pull it out, go to the next spot. How hard is it? Easy. It's easy to do. Now, does it take a little while? Yes. To me, it's fun. I actually enjoy it. And once I get all the way around and I've cut all the roots, okay, then what I'll do is I'll loosen this up a little bit. I might take a shovel and dig a hole on either side, whatever I have to do to get some leverage under it and pop it up, it'll come right out. And I grab these handles from the grow bags. So it's always good to buy the grow bags with handles. And you just pull it up and it will come right up. And I do it all the time. And then it's easy to transport it to storage, whether it's a garage, whether it's a basement. I've got videos on my fig isolation room that I built that you can look at. And of course you've seen I hope that you've seen in my videos my root cellar, which is a fig cellar, which I built primarily to store my fig trees over the winter. And you will get no winter damage. Look at this, here's a little branch down here, and look at that breba right there. I'll try to get it in focus. I can't see with the glare, but somewhere I'll reach a focal point. But you can see the beautiful little breba there, which is going to be a delicious Smith fig early in the season next year. Because I'm going to take this out in the spring and give it an early start, and I'm going to put it out in the yard, okay, for a little bit, and then I'm going to put it right back in the hole again, okay, cover it up, and it's going to grow just like it did this year, and it's going to produce more figs this year than last year. More figs, early, early. All of these themes that I've, I guess, gone over and over and over again redundantly, time and time again, but for a purpose, because I'm trying to spread the word out there to those people that don't maybe have the experience, or first comers, that are trying to figure out, some of these techniques that they're going to use to be successful figgers. Okay, here's another tree. I just went around that one, and this is a Laterulla, Italian Laterulla, which is a great variety to plant in the ground. If you're in 7A like I am here, or 7B like I am at my other property that I have videos about, look at all those breba. Look at that. Let's see. I'm not cutting these branches off. No way am I going to sacrifice these beautiful breba. This tree produces a lot of breba. Look at that. And they're going to be delicious, and I'm not going to sacrifice them. I hope you can see. I hope you can see them. You see the little figs there? I hope that you can see them. Okay. Well, they're all over this tree. They're all over the tree. And by not cutting this, again, I'm not a big advocate of pruning. I'm not. I do it to open up a tree, to allow for air circulation. I do it for the purpose of producing a better, higher quality fig, because the sunlight is able to penetrate the leaves. And of course, I cut these little branches out so that the energy is diverted from these little branches that would maybe have a few figs that would be in the shade of the tree. And that energy is going to go into the beautiful figs that are sitting in the sun, you know, and there won't be quite as many figs, but the figs will be bigger, better, and higher quality and better tasting. That's all very, very, very important. So I want you to understand that. I want you to understand why I do it. But this is an Italian Laterulla fig, which I highly, highly recommend. It grows wonderfully in pots. It tastes wonderfully in pots. Not all figs do. I talked about that before many times. Okay, so it's delicious in containers. I don't know why. Nobody knows why. I'm telling you, it does. But it tastes even better in the ground, as all figs usually do. Okay, and this is a wonderful tree. It's very winter hardy. With a little bit of wrapping, even if you plant it in the ground and don't use my ground bag method, and you leave it in the ground all year, you just put a tarp over it, or maybe a light blanket and a cloth, and then a tarp over that, and that's it. And you'll be pretty good. You leave a little ventilation on the bottom. I show all this in my other videos, okay? And this tree will survive. It's just tough. It's just tough, and it will produce an abundance of fruit each year, breva and main crop. And they're good, they're delicious, especially when they're grown in the ground, but just really, honestly, they're almost as good in containers. It's an excellent tree to put into your, and it's an oldie but goodie. You know, it's a time-proven favorite. And sometimes you need to listen to that. You know, remember that, you know, the old Italians, the Greeks, you know, the French, there's a lot of different nationalities that have grown fig trees here in the United States. Why do you think they pick these varieties? Why do you think you see them in so many old Italian growers' yards? Why? You know why? Because they're successful. Why do you think you see Celeste? Why do you think you see brown turkey? Why do you think you see all of the Mount Etna types, the hardy Chicago types, like this tree over here, which I'm just going to leave in the ground? I'm not going to take this. Isn't in a ground bag. It produces an abundance all the time, a fig, and I'm just going to wrap it up with a tarp, and next year it's going to produce a lot of fruit for me. Okay, without wearing out the subject any further, I hope this information was helpful to you. I could take a little walk over here to just end this video. Wish I could have got that coffee. I sure do need it. But you know how to do this now. Extraction. And remember, you never make holes on the bottom, the very bottom. You never make holes on the bottom of the ground bag. And the reason why is because how are you going to get that machete in there to cut those roots? You're not. And you don't have to. It's not necessary. Just cut the holes around the perimeter of the ground bag. That's it. So now you know as much as I know about that technique. And it's a great technique. Hey there, how you doing? Be right with you. Let's go this way. We had a hard frost 2 nights in a row, very hard. And I picked quite a few of these and put them in the house. And before the frost came, but the quality's not really sacrificed when you just, persimmons are just amazing. And they can just hang here now for weeks. I have them until after Thanksgiving all the time. Let me see here. This one here looks like, oh boy. This one's nice and soft. This one's fully ripe. Maybe you want to take a look at that. Let's see, hold on a second. Wow, look at that. Look at that. I hope this is in focus. Now here's something that I'm sorry I can't share with you. I can only maybe give you a description. Hold on a second. Oh my God, that's good. It's so good. I've talked about this before, and I've implored you, please put one of these in your yard. Can you see why? Grow a few of them. 2, I keep saying it. I'm going to say it again, and I'm just going to keep saying it until every one of my subscribers and all the other people out there that are watching my videos. And thank you to all of you, because I enjoy this exchange. Until you finally write me back and say, okay, I did it. I planted a Nikita's Gift persimmons tree in my backyard and a Seijo. A Seijo. I've done it. I got tired of hearing you, Lou. I got tired of it. And I followed your advice. I did it. And then I want you to post a video like this on YouTube. Okay? That's all I'm asking. No personal gain except for the satisfaction of knowing that I passed along some good information and you took it. Look at that. How can anybody, even for a moment, that likes to grow fresh organic fruit in their yard, figs, all fruits, but how could you? Because this is after the fig season, remember. This is after, when all the figs are done, they're finished, they're over with. Look at my video, the last fig, okay? You still have this. You have this all the way up into nearly Christmas. And guess what? All winter, really, because I have videos on dehydrating these. And you can dehydrate them. Just look at my videos on dehydrating these. And I put them in the freezer when they're done being dehydrated. And I take out a bag every couple of weeks. And I tell you what, they're like candy. And I eat them all year round. And there's plenty to eat, look. And I've got several trees. Okay. Thank you for the visit. I really did appreciate your visit. I always do. Hold on 1 second. One more second. Just 1 second, please. Wow. Wow. Listen, these are so creamy delicious. Please listen to me. If you have a little bit of ground in your backyard, you can grow this variety, Nikita's Gift, even in zone 6, probably in zone 5, because it's a blend. It's a cross between an American persimmons, which is very, very winter hardy, and a Japanese persimmons, which is not. But this can go down to 25 below zero easily. Okay? Grow Nikita's Gift. Grow it. And Seijo goes down to 10 below. So you figure out your own zone. If you can grow something down to 10 below, also put a Seijo, which is purely Japanese. It's a purely Japanese variety. It's not a cross. Those 2 varieties, I've been growing these things for 40 years. 40 years, okay? I've been in this home for 41 years, all right? I've been growing persimmons all my life. And I was eating them out in the woods as a young boy, even before that. When I was a little guy hunting with my dad, we would find a persimmons tree, a wild native persimmons tree in the woods, and my father and I would shake out all the persimmons and pull the branches down as much as we could without breaking them, and we would have a treat every year. Some of the fondest memories. Look at this tree. It's probably 35 foot tall. It's old. 22, 23, 25 years old. I don't know how old. Old. Very old. Look how big the base is on it. Look at that. Okay. I've grown a lot of fruits, and I've done a lot of gardening all my life. I've grown a lot of figs, and so I can tell you that growing persimmons in your own backyard is one of the richest experiences I think I've ever had. I absolutely could never ever do without it, and that's why I keep recommending that you give persimmons a try. And I'm telling you, of all the varieties I've grown for over 40 years, the 2 that have stood out the most, for sure, completely, are the ones I just recommended. And of course, you have to put an American persimmons in your yard like this one, an ordinary American persimmons. Also, I recommend it. They're delicious. They're not as big. They have lots of seeds. They're different than the other 2. but they're a good mainstay crop. You got to stick with the oldies and the goodies too, and I find it rewarding enough. And they mature at different times. All three of the varieties that I just mentioned, the American Persimmons, the Seijo, and the Nikita's Gift, every single one of them kind of ripens on their own time schedule a little differently. So they're staggered, and that's what you want. You want staggered fruit. Okay, so thanks again for visiting. I hope you enjoyed the information I tried to convey over to you. Happy Thanksgiving. Grow persimmons. Good day.